All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to tackle something that affects millions of us every single day, food labels. We're going to pull back the curtain on U.S. food allergen labeling so you can walk into any grocery store feeling confident and knowing exactly how to make safe choices. You know that feeling, right? You're standing in the aisle, you've got a box in your hand, and you're turning it over and over, trying to decipher what's actually in it. For a lot of people, that's not just about being curious. It's a really critical health check. So what are we really talking about here? Well, a food allergy is basically your immune system going into overdrive. It mistakes a totally harmless food protein for a dangerous invader. And the reactions? They can be anything from some annoying hives all the way to anaphylaxis, which is absolutely life-threatening. So yeah, this is serious business.
Now, here's what's pretty wild. There are more than 160 foods out there that can cause allergic reactions. But get this, a whopping 90% of all the serious reactions come from just a small handful of them. And that's exactly why U.S. law puts a laser focus on a very specific list.
Which of course brings us to the stars of today's show. It's time to meet the group officially known as the major food allergens here in the States, the Big Nine.
And here's the lineup: milk, eggs, peanuts, wheat, and soybeans. Then you've got fish and crustacean shellfish, things like shrimp and crab. Add tree nuts, like almonds and walnuts, to the list. And finally, the newest addition, sesame. The law is simple. If a food product has any of these in it, it has to be on the label. No exceptions.
You know, this list didn't just fall out of the sky. It's actually been evolving. It all started back in 2004 with a law that set up the original Big Eight. Then, pretty recently, as of January 1st, 2023, sesame officially joined the club. This just goes to show you that these laws change as we learn more and as our diets change. Sesame got way more common in our food, allergy rates went up, and so the law had to adapt.
Okay, so now we know what we're looking for. The next big question is, how do we actually find it on the package? Let's get practical.
The best part about the law is that it's designed to be simple. No more trying to remember complicated scientific terms like casein or albumin. The rule is that the label has to state the food source, like milk or egg, in plain everyday English. It's a total game changer.
And manufacturers have two main ways they can do this. Take a look. On the left, you see the allergen listed right there in parentheses, right in the ingredient list, like flour, wheat. But on the right, you see that bold contain statement, listed separately just below the ingredients. Both ways are totally legal, so you've got to keep an eye out for both.
Now, what about the tricky stuff? What happens when an allergen isn't actually an ingredient, but it sort of sneaks in by accident? That's what we call cross-contact. It can happen when a factory uses the same equipment to make different products. A little bit of peanut dust here, a splash of milk there. It adds up.
And this leads to a super important point. There's a huge difference between a mandatory label and an advisory one. That contain statement, it's required by law for things that are supposed to be in the food. But those other warnings, the ones that say may contain wheat or made in a facility with peanuts, those are completely voluntary. They're just a heads up from the company about possible cross-contact.
Okay, so we have all these rules, which is great. But who's the referee? Who actually makes sure companies are playing by the rules? Well, that's where the FDA, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, comes in.
The FDA really wears a few different hats here. First, they're the ones who write the rule book for labeling and for safe manufacturing. Then, they go out and inspect factories to make sure everyone's following that rule book. They also keep a close eye on complaints from consumers, yep, people like us, to spot any problems. And if they find a company breaking the rules, they can take serious action, like forcing a recall to get that unsafe food off the shelves.
So we've talked a lot about the Big Nine, but they're not the only things people can have a reaction to. So let's zoom out a little and see what else you might find on a food label.
Remember that 90% number from earlier? Well, what about the other 10%? That comes from over 160 other foods. And even though they don't get the same Big Nine treatment, some of them still have their own special labeling rules for other very important health reasons.
For instance, you'll often see labels that call out gluten. That's for people with celiac disease. Or take sulfites. They're a preservative, but they have to be listed because they can cause really bad asthma-like symptoms for some people. Even certain food colorings, like yellow number 5, have to be identified by name because they're known to cause reactions like hives.
So we've covered a ton of ground. Now, how do you put all this knowledge into action? Let's finish up with a clear, simple plan to help you stay safe. First things first, you have to know what a reaction even looks like. It could be on your skin, like hives or a rash. It could be digestive issues. Or, in the most serious cases, it could be swelling, coughing, wheezing, or even trouble breathing. It's so important to know these signs.
And if you think you or someone else is having a reaction, the FDA's advice is crystal clear, and you have to remember it. Step 1, stop eating the food immediately. Step 2, figure out if you need to use any emergency medication, like an epinephrine autoinjector. And step 3, and this is the most important part, get medical help. Don't ever wait and see.
And that brings us to one last thing to think about. We've already seen the list of major allergens grow from 8 to 9. As our food and our science continue to change, you have to wonder, what's next? What food will be number 10? It's a really powerful reminder that when it comes to food safety, the story is always evolving.